Going into this challenge of 10 consecutive successful S-tests, I barely understood how to pass it, and for that reason, I failed many times. But despite failing again and again, I was determined, and eventually I got a good streak. I slowed down this so I could show you what technique I used to pass it. As you can see on the corners, I am going a lot slower, and although you can't see it, that's because I was holding my finger closer to the car to make it go slower. This may sound obvious, but it's incredibly necessary if you intend on passing the test, because the car you use will drift on the corners. The second thing is making sure you are extending your finger far out on the long stretches, otherwise you'll go too slow to make time. Lastly, on the final curvy section, I tend to go faster than I should just because I'm close to the end, but you don't need to worry about that because you usually have enough time to pass it. I also want to let you know I generally didn't cut much from this video just to prove I did this legitimately, but I also split up long portions where I'm not racing, so you know I didn't cheat. These sections do have Wii music, so you can enjoy that over the regular game music, just because you're going to be hearing the regular game music a lot in this video. So I have 9 more runs, but I wanted to make this a little bit interesting, so I'm going to be putting a failed attempt in the left corner of the screen and comparing that to my real run. So as you can see here, the left corner, it looks pretty much the same, and that's how it's going to be for the beginning of this, but like always I mess up in these corner videos, and I'll actually expand what I did wrong so you can see more clearly. So here you can see that I'm drifting, which is something I mentioned earlier, but because I drift I get distracted, and then yeah, right here. And the reason why I did that is because when I drift I get distracted, I think I need to go faster, and then I turn too early and I ran into the cones. I promise I'm trying to make this as entertaining as possible, but I just want to cut as little as possible, especially since this will take multiple in-game days. As you can see, the beginning is always going to be the same, and now you can see the corner cut. So the start is basically the same, just ready, set, go, but pretty early on you can tell that the corner cut is a lot slower, and that's because I'm going way too fast into these corners. You're supposed to go fast on these long parts, but if you don't slow down in time, then you have to run into things and back up, and it just takes away a lot of time that you would otherwise be spending beating the run faster. And you want to get to about this point, the corner cut point, at like 10 seconds minimum, otherwise you will fail because you won't have enough time. And I'll show that in a later corner cut run too, where I tried to run but I just didn't have enough time to make it. But of course in the real run that you can see here, I passed it. So for this I just have a time in the corner, and that's the time where I passed, but I can just explain to you what happens when you don't do things right. If you go slow on the corners, and if you have to back up at all, you're going to lose a second or two, and there's a very specific spot where you know where your time should be, so that's what I pay attention to. Around, this point you should have 10 seconds. I had like 9, so I could barely pass, but if you have 12 to 10 seconds, you're doing pretty well. And the reason I'm saying this is because if you have to back up, it makes you lose a little bit of time, and you can't go around corners too fast, otherwise you'll drift. So I wanted to explain that. So clearly it's nighttime, I can't do another race, so I went to the town and got some food, but because in another attempt you can very clearly see I'm at attempt 72, and here it's still 72, that proves I didn't cheat, so I didn't feel like I needed to show you everything I did. I feel like I've said everything that I can without being repetitive and still being useful, so I hope you enjoyed this first section. If you want to watch the rest of them, go ahead. I did do a voiceover reaction at the very end because I don't have any audio, but my reaction is kind of funny at the very end. And Also, I usually failed around the middle of the run, so that's just something to keep in mind, where I failed the most. And if you're trying to beat this for the first time, don't overthink it. Like, just be patient with yourself, be patient with the game. It takes a while. It took me multiple days in real life to pass it 10 times in a row, so just be patient. And if you want to try and beat my 10 in a row, go ahead, comment, and I will watch your video. And for these last few, I'm going to be putting Wii music in, just because the regular music can get really repetitive. I know Wii music was repetitive, but I feel like people like that more. I'm one away at this point. I was super excited, but I was also really, really nervous because if I pass this, it's great. But if I didn't pass this, I would have to redo 10. I would have to redo 10 times this entire thing. This entire thing probably took me 30 minutes to do, 25 to 30 minutes, and obviously I'm editing this down to like half that. But I mean, that was 5 minutes of Wii music you just heard, so you can tell that. I mean, I wanted to keep as much of this video intact as possible, and you can tell that it took me forever. This is gonna sound really funny, but you can tell that I'm taking a little bit more time, like, to go up to him and like talk to him even after it goes. And that's because in real life I was actually like stretching my hands and like making sure I was like loose, because I didn't want to be tense and then fail this test and have to do it 10 more times. So as the test started, I was really nervous. I had no idea what to expect, because even though I had done this 10 times, I mean, every time I did a little bit different, well, a second more, a second less, and so I was really terrified when I did this. But as you can see, it's going pretty well, and I mean, I just thought about it like it was the first time, and just that I had no stakes, because if I have stakes, then it's going to be a lot more terrifying for me. But I just thought about it as if I was doing it for the first time, and as you can see, it was at 10 seconds in that corner like I was supposed to. I go around this pretty quickly. I was so close to hitting that, by the way, but I passed, and that made 10 times, and then this is where it's funny. So I realized that I had 10 times, and I was thinking maybe I should go for 11. I was like debating that in my head. Then I was like, well, maybe I want to go to 20, so I decided not to do anything. And then I was like, I want to do something to celebrate this. I'm about to ruin this man's whole life. Okay, so if you want to see me go to 20, please subscribe, like the video. That'll help me out with the YouTube algorithm, give me hope, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching.